Hello and welcome to the program. I'm Saurav Roy and I'm in Istanbul to meet Turkey's renowned philosopher, economist and best-selling novelist Alev Alatli. Her first book more than 30 years ago is recognized as a key work in Turkish philosophy. Since then, she's been regularly on the bestseller list and is recognized as one of the most widely read Turkish columnists. Known in the political and literary circles as a scholar who challenges the status quo and stands up to the establishment, Alev Alatli has left a distinct mark as a social firebrand and a fearless philosopher. This is One on One. Alev Alatli, thank you so much for joining us on One on One.
Most welcome.
You've been a writer, a thinker, a philosopher, and you have the unique ability of expressing things in forms, in figures, and in formulas, and you're known for that. How would you express the world that we are in today?
I would say cynicism, which is the result of ignorance, which seems to be growing day by day. And that is the result of Philistinism, 21st century Philistinism, which I see growing. And all that ends up in people not being able to talk to each other. A loss of codes, loss of words that have any meaning, even loss of values, traditional values. And I see this all over the world. And quite frankly, if I'm frightened of anything, I'm frightened of this, and not even of the nuclear weapons. I think this is worse, not being able to talk to each other, understand each other. If I had the ultimate power over the world, you know what I'd do? I would take this United Nations and turn it into a dictionary building, whatever it is. I'd make a dictionary for the world of the values, of the words, of the ancient understanding, the concepts, the values and what as such, and make a dictionary of this, like an overblown thesaurus, for instance. But the kind that when someone from, say, from South Africa, a tribe, comes up with a belief, that I know what he's talking about because I find a similar one in the dictionary. Do you know what I mean? I think this is lacking. And so many things are lost in translation that we end up getting on each other's throat for nothing at all. But this ignorance, the spreading of ignorance, and the lost intellectuals. I don't know what the intellectuals have gone really. They're just left for places that we don't see them anymore. And I see, and again, as a corollary to all that, a general degeneration of leadership in the world. There are no Churchills anymore who can sit down and write so many volumes of history at the same time. Instead, you find someone like Blair, who says something today and next some other thing the other day.
Talking about intellectuals, you've been very strongly critical of intellectuals within the Turkish Republic, and you've often said that they do not meet the English term intellectual thoroughly enough. Why do you think so? And do you think it is because that they've alienated themselves completely from the lives and the values of their own people?
Now, all right, let's get something clear. There's such a thing as intellectual. There is such a thing as intelligentsia in the Soviet sense. Now, it's the intelligentsia is not satisfied only with learning. Intelligentsia wants to move in and take care of the situation of himself. Intelligentsia wants to be the power, the ruling power. What I am against in Turkish intellectuals turned into intelligentsia is that they, for one thing, they become patronizing, Roy, very easily patronizing. And they end up patronizing their very own people. Now, knowing the better of something is something, but patronizing is something else. So with this patronization comes necessarily an overbearing attitude, which serves nobody. So what you do is crowds, the people move away from you. And after a little while, they start ridiculing you even. There the communication stops. Some intellectual, which decides to be a part of the intelligentsia, moving in and constantly patronizing, criticizing people. And not only that, actually having the audacity to try to stop their behaving one way or other. For instance, anger at the azan, which is 5 times a day, or that people pray, or that ladies cover their heads, or this or that. And for what end? Finally, what good does it do to people? They develop a psychology which is they are really having such a hard time living in Turkey. And they don't deserve Turkey. They don't deserve the Turks. They don't deserve these people. But they manage to live in this country anyway, kind of thing. And they pass this feeling on to people. And I think it's unfair. It's not right. It doesn't serve any good finally, and it'll. I also think it's dangerous when you're talking about democracy.
So you've clearly made a distinction between intelligentsia and intellectuals. Do you think intelligentsia and intellectuals have room together for capacity development or for building the nation together?
Certainly I do, but first things first. If you'll allow me, I'll try to explain something else. For instance, take Erdogan. What Erdogan did was for the first time to involve people in decision processes. And that was very, very important. Involve people in decision processes and decentralize. With this decentralization, people started producing more, building more, what have you. However, not quite in the manner that the intelligentsia deemed, excellent or what have you. When you choose, I choose Erdogan's way. It's slow, sometimes infuriating, what have you. Ama I think that is the way that'll really work and healthy. That's the healthy way. Now, what would intelligentsia do? Help out. What's keeping intelligentsia from advising the politician or whoever is in charge? Intelligentsia can do that, but intelligentsia should stop thinking it's the final authority on any subject and what's up. I think this is what goes wrong with most of the developing countries, because you have a few people whom you educate abroad, whatever, and you're already suffering from some sort of a complex, inferiority complex, that you end up, when you find these couple of people who are, say, graduates of speak foreign languages, the graduates of Oxford, Harvard, what have you, all of a sudden you start thinking after a while that they perhaps know something you don't.
Well, if one goes by the definition of per capita income as a denominator for intellectuals, then would you say that there aren't any intellectuals, or would you hint that there are no intellectuals coming from the Far East, let's say China or India?
Absolutely, it's not a hint. I'm saying it. Of course, I'm saying it. Yes, yes, because look, it's against the nature of the problem. Let me put it that way. The intelligentsia of a developing country who's not, even, I don't even like the word developing country, whatever that means. All right, let's say the intelligentsia of the countries whose national income per capita is under $10,000 a year, let's say. Let's talk about these countries. All right. These countries certainly need know-how. Now, this know-how is to be transferred somehow. However, this know-how cannot be transferred by people who are happy with themselves in some capital of the West. They don't care, and they don't have to care. Do I make myself clear? Why should they worry, and they don't worry? I mean, think of United Nations, think of the newspapers you've worked for, think of the TV channels that you work for. Do you see a trace of Chinese wisdom being discussed? Think of the people you have interviewed. How many Chinese intellectuals have you interviewed? Think of India. What did come out of India? Think of the United States. Think of the United States Parliament. How many Chinese are there in the Parliament? How many, for that matter, black people are in the Parliament? How many Latins, Hispanics are in the Parliament? It's obviously not there.
Turkey is known to be extremely polarized. For example, when it comes to football matches, we see people are extremely polarized and in two different groups opposing each other. Having said that, given the fact that there were so many people of different ideologies coming together on the night of the coup to defeat the coup, what do you think made it possible? Is it because they were talking to each other?
Says who? My goodness, such observation. Says who?
Do you think it is not polarized?
Of course it's not polarized.
Do you think it's a unified country, despite different political ideologies?
Efendim, it says unified as any other country. Now why put the spotlight on Turkey? Unless you have an ulterior motive. Speaking of football matches, my dear Roy, you never saw United Kingdom, I presume. Speaking of football matches and hooliganism, watch United Kingdom. For crying out loud, how many times have they killed so many people over some Liverpool, over some whatever? No.
I get the drift.
Yeah, this is one. Secondly, people are on each other's throats. Says who? Says who? Turn around and look at America, the United States manages because they won't allow a third party. It's easy enough for them. You have two parties. The third party is impossible to come up, and so it's that kind of peace. You cannot honestly say that Turkey is in each other's throat. It isn't. We certainly disagree.
Talking about the influence of intellectuals and cults, do you think that Gulen formed a cult? Why was he so successful in influencing the intellectuals and the general populace of people? What made him so successful? And why was it that by the end of the coup, people had defeated what he wanted to achieve?
Cult is right, but intellectually, no. Anyway, for a cult, you don't need to be intellectual. Think of Jim Jones and what have you, and what intellectual. Or even James Mason and what have you, what intellectual. It's not intellectualism. Cult is right. Cult is right. Why was he so influential? That is, I think, the question that you want to be asking, and that why I personally was never impressed. And absolutely deranged man, which is the one the man talking about Gülen. in the States, came up with a crazy idea, which unfortunately cost us over 250 dead. Now, enough is enough. Enough is enough. He has to learn to pull himself together and get the hell out. And pull his hands out of the processes of this nation. So when you start looking at Gülen, when I started at least, looking at Gülen in this perspective, then you see the so-called takiye, meaning doing something, saying something else kind of thing. And takiye is not a concept that's alien to this part of the world. It's originally Jewish. We have had cases of this way before. Sabbatai group, for instance, the Zevi group, and the endist, which came out of that group, the Jacob Frank and what have you, where they were the masters in this thing. We saw the same thing. So what did Gülen give you, you might ask to people? 40 years, all right. And so he was after a golden generation. Did you hear that too? They say he's coming up with a golden generation. And that is his golden generation. So where is the success? And you would think that in 40 years, placing people into schools and with exams that are pre-coached, etc., etc. So what did he produce? Did he produce a space engineer, or some great writer, or some great musician, or some great doctor? None of this is there. So for one thing, he is not successful. That he does, that he had followers, yes he did. Yes, he did have followers, but any self-respecting cult leader should have that many followers. There's nothing here that should be. We shouldn't exaggerate, really. We shouldn't exaggerate. And if he were as good as he was, that coup would not have come to an end in 5 hours, which it did. With people and with the army itself. Because the coup wasn't the army. The coup was, don't forget, a percentage of people within the army. He's not all that successful. And he'll go, I think, hopefully.
The Western media came and it covered the coup in a manner that they understood, but they did not understand the ground realities. How would you tell the story to the Western media or to anybody if you were to tell the story of the coup?
Shall I tell you something? I think you in the West are bored. You are bored. Because you think that, not you, please don't take it personally. Please don't take it personally. Okay. You are bored. You don't really know quite what to do with yourselves. Too much money. Too much fun. Countries that go in some way or other, no problems. Now you need something to make yourself useful. So what happens? The eyes turn onto the Middle East, especially to a country like Turkey, where you can get some sense of what you call it, conversation. And you can converse with Turks, right? I mean, it's not as if you're talking to Somali or whatever. There's something here. It's the whole Ottoman Empire. Plus, we have few things to show and so forth. This is what it is. I think they're bored. But remember the time when the American embassy in Tehran was occupied. Of the 350 some newspaper reporters who went there, not one spoke Persian. Same thing happens here. You guys come and go, again, pardon me, not one of you speak Turkish. You don't have the stamina to learn Turkish, or the patience, or what have you. So you don't know what's going on in this country. Now, I've seen quote-unquote experts. Today I was just reading one of them, what's his name, Enrique, or whatever, Mark Enrique, I guess. The man's name is Mark something. stayed 5 years in Turkey, you know, as the chief of the European Union group delegation, the chief. And not only that, he was here as an ambassador, what have you. Now you look at the man. He barely has an MA degree from some godforsaken university. Stay in a country 5 years and make yourself somehow an expert, scholar, and don't speak Turkish. And not only that, don't speak Arabic and be a Middle Eastern expert. Not only that, start advising people to do this, that, the other. That's at the beginning of our talk, that's what I'm saying. Ignorance. Incredible ignorance, patronizing, audaciousness, what have you. And they've got it too good, drawing. They just have it too good, that's what it is. So we have come to a point that international media says nothing. I think I'm still hopeful because I've lived in America for a long time, before that Japan and what have you. I know there are good people out there. I know that some of them eventually will start dominating the Western horizon again. That's why I'm hoping is that they cannot be all this ridiculous. This is bad. Something will happen. This is bad.
And why do you think people won? Is it because, as you rightly said earlier, they were talking to each other? And is it because they were communicating to each other despite so many different political and ideological differences?
For one thing, we're sick and tired of being told what to do. Not only by the West, but also by our very own institutions, such as the army, the white Turks we call them, the established Turks, by the Zapadniki, the westernizers. And this topped it off. This Gülen guy, he really topped it off. And to top it off, don't forget the president just became president with 52% of the votes. He is loved. There's a recent saying that's going on in Istanbul, maybe you have heard of it. They say Erdogan is Turkey. Very interesting. Erdogan is Turkey. With the shortcomings, the brilliances, the resilience.
And would you also say that Turkey is Erdogan?
Not quite, but the other one is true, I think.
All right.
Because the people, again, lost in translation, the people on the streets, the people who literally stopped the tanks with bare hands. We're not the AKP sympathizers fully. No. But we're sick and tired of being told what to do. That's what it is. They're sick and tired of being told what to do. Enough. Let us choose. Anyway, in a couple of years there will be elections, and if we don't like Erdogan, Erdogan goes. As simple as that. Actually, think of it. The most vulnerable people are politicians, actually, in this country anyway, because a politician has 4 years to prove himself. He does it and never gets the vote. And in Turkish politics, if you look at the past years, you'll see this. All of a sudden, Ecevit, for instance, a leftist leader, he was very popular. 41% of the votes. Only in a couple of years. Practically zero. Fell under the limit that's necessary to get into the... But this is what happens. A politician is very vulnerable. And certainly in Turkey, which is a good thing. They'll have to watch for themselves. But Erdogan, the same thing is for Erdogan. So far, he managed to communicate. He managed to communicate, which is, it certainly is a lot better than someone who sat there and dictated.
What does Alev Alatli, a Turk in her heart, in her body, mind, spirit and soul, think about the coup, and what is her message to the people of Turkey?
If we are to be erased from the face of the earth, let us be erased, but with dignity and some humor. That's what I would say, I think. Dignity and humor. Dignity and humor. As for the other side of the coin, we have but one planet. We have but one planet, and we have already damaged it so badly that we don't know what to do with it. We have no choice but to pull ourselves together and start communicating and understand that not every legal right is a halal right. You know what halal is? Not every legal right is halal. Not every legal right is kosher. We have to understand this and start thinking a little bit, and then take it from there. No, I don't believe I don't believe all good men are gone. No, I don't believe that. I don't believe that. There'll be people who be coming, and even the fact that you and I are sitting in this house talking like this, it is already a sign of perhaps a light, a bit. We'll be all right.
Alev Alatli, it's been a delight to have you on the show. Thank you so much for talking to TRT World.
Thank you. Thank you.